Okay, so here we go with a 15-mark evaluate question. This is from the Judaism beliefs half of the paper, and it's given us the most important belief in Judaism is Pikuach Nefesh, which is sanctity of life. So in order to effectively answer this question, we need to be able to explain why for some Jews, Pikuach Nefesh might be the most important belief, but then we need to be able to evaluate to compare why other Jews may think different beliefs are more important. So stick with us on this one if you want to know about sanctity of life, you want to know how to successfully answer a 15-mark question and do some quick revision on a few other Jewish beliefs as well. We would always suggest the first thing to do when you're faced with an evaluation question is explain why some Jews will agree with the statement that's given. We're going to add some sources of evidence to it, and we're going to explain what that means for everyday living for Jews that agree with this statement. So let's have a go at our first paragraph. Let's start with some Jews would agree. Pikuach Nefesh, we're always going to try and refer to the words of the question or the statement as well. That Pikuach Nefesh is the most important belief. Let's say why straight away. Because life is sacred and given by God. Some Jews would agree that Pikuach Nefesh is the most important belief because life is sacred and given by God. I want to add some evidence to this now to support these beliefs. So, the Torah teaches that saving a life overrides all other commandments. And this is supported by the quote. If you save a life, it is as if you save the whole world. Now that actually comes from the Talmud. I'm going to back it up with another source. Another source says you shall live by the Torah, not die by it. And then I need to explain what this means. I can't just throw a quote in and not explain it, showing that preserving life comes before religious rules, comes before other religious rules. Now, for today, what does that mean in practice for Jews today? Well, in practice, this means Jews are allowed to break most mitzvot to save lives. We are going to talk about one that they can't break in a minute. Jews are allowed to break most mitzvot to save lives. For example, working or driving on Shabbat. To get someone to hospital. And then I'm just going to sum up this paragraph, my first paragraph, explaining why for some Jews Pikuach Nefesh is the most important. For many Jews, this belief shows how much God values human life, making it the most important. Now, that is a very strong first paragraph. But that's really, even though it's got some great sources of evidence, some key terms, we've explained everything fully. If I just left it at that, I'm getting 3 out of 15, no more. We need to be able to expand, add a second viewpoint in. And in order to do that, we also want to start with, what we call sort of the magic however, just to show that we really are evaluating. However, really important, that word there, and I've left a line to show that I am making a new point, just to guide the examiner, so the person who's marking the work, into giving me those extra marks. However, other Jews might say, now here we've got a lot of choices. We can talk about any of the Jewish beliefs that you've studied: Abraham, Moses, the Ten Commandments, how are synagogues used, God as a creator. We're going to go in this paragraph with other Jews might say, so use what you know, that belief in God as a lawgiver and judge is more important. You might find that you've got questions that you've previously answered on the same paper, where you can just lift that information straight over into this evaluation as well. Just because you've used it once does not mean you can't use it again. However, other Jews might say that belief in God as a lawgiver and judge is more important. Jews believe God gave the Torah and the 613 mitzvot to guide their lives. As it says in Leviticus. You could just put as it says in the Torah, but I know where it's from, so I'm going to quote it. As it says in Leviticus, these are the commandments the Lord gave Moses for the Israelites. God is seen as a judge who evaluates people's actions. Evaluates people's actions. And this belief affects how Jews live today. And this is why this one might be important. How Jews live today. Orthodox Jews try to follow all the mitzvot, while Reform Jews may adapt them. But both see the Torah as central to their identity. So let's just spin this back up to the statement about the belief for Jews. Following God's laws and being judged fairly by Him might be seen as more important than any single commandment like Pikuach Nefesh. Just see them. So we've got two different viewpoints now, and what I could do is go straight through to my conclusion. And I have saved a point back for my conclusion. However, while we're recording, let's just do a quick bit of revision about another belief that could also be seen by some Jews as the most important. And that one is the covenant with Abraham. So let me show you how you would incorporate this. Let's just move over here. I'm going to start this time with another phrase, which is on the other hand. On the other hand, great third paragraph starter. Some Jews might argue that the most important belief is the covenant with Abraham. Because it's the foundation of Judaism. Now, will look at Abraham and his covenant in other videos. If you just go into the playlist, you can find more information there. But for some Jews, the most important belief might be the covenant with Abraham because it is the foundation of Judaism. Abraham's seen as the patriarch, as the father figure. Patriarch. The father and founder of Jewish faith. In the covenant, God promised three things. Land, which Jews believe is Israel today. Descendants, which makes Abraham the ancestor of the Jewish people. And blessings. They're the three promises: land, descendants, and blessings, showing a special relationship with God. So this covenant is vital, is a vital belief. Using the words of the question still, this covenant is a vital belief because without it, Judaism would not exist. And today, at 8 days old, Jewish boys enter the covenant with the ritual of Brit Milah. Connecting modern Jews to their ancestors. Now, theoretically, you have got more than enough there for some great marks, but I'm going to show you how to throw a conclusion on as well. You could do 2 paragraphs and a conclusion. For me, I would always keep point back for a conclusion. So I haven't used this point yet. I've kept what I'm able to write as my strongest belief back, and it is this. In conclusion, whilst belief in sanctity of life, Pikuach Nefesh, is important, I think the most important Jewish belief is monotheism. So I've picked one that I can explain well. I believe the most important Jewish belief is monotheism. This is so central, here's the reason I think it's the most important, that it cannot be broken. Even to save a life. The Shema prayer says, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one." And Jews are taught to never worship another god, even if their life is at risk. And you could put here actually, we see this through the story of Moses. This shows that belief in God's oneness is the foundation of all other beliefs in Judaism. Remember, Abraham was also picked because he was a monotheist in times when other people were worshipping multiple gods. So this belief in one God underpins his covenant as well. And for me, this becomes the most important belief. End with the words of the statement. Now that's a long video that you've just sat through, but we have had a look at why Pikuach Nefesh is the most important and looked at different points to do with Pikuach Nefesh and sanctity of life. We've also had a look at God as a judge and a lawgiver and the mitzvot and following the Torah. We've had a quick fire blast through Abraham as the patriarch and the covenant, why that might be the most important. And finally, as we've got here in conclusion, this idea that maybe monotheism for many Jews could be the most important because it underpins all of Jewish religion. Now, in all of that, hopefully you've also seen how to answer a 15-mark question and a structure to use. And just before we finish, remember to check your 15-mark questions to see if they're carrying any spag marks. If this is useful to you, check out some of the other videos on this playlist to help you with your revision as well. Otherwise, good luck.